Right, welcome to Rambling Achieved. As you can see, it's the end of another month, which means I'm going to be ranking the 4 games that I ended up finishing this month. Yeah, still feeling the repercussions of Crimson Desert. It ate up, I'd probably say, the beginning portion of the month, and then I took about a week, 2 week break, and I've only just started picking it up again after they did a fairly chunky update to it. But it's definitely hindered my ability to try and get back in the groove, because I usually would finish about 5 to 6 titles a month on average, and this year's been kind of slow in comparison to other years. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. But as you can see in front of us, we have, should have probably ordered it in the way that it was beaten. There we go. So I began this month playing something called Showgunners, which, if you've checked out the, I think it was Hidden Gems video I did recently, I did end up mentioning Showgunners. Really awesome that this ended up coming to console. I remember, I think I said it in the hidden videos thing, but Mortismal put it on my radar. I remember watching him do his review after 100% for it. And it's a really interesting concept for a game of basically like a celebrity style deathmatch, but it's all on TV basically. And you have these like little pocket arenas that you're working through. Some of them have traps, some of them have little puzzles in them. And then obviously you have the combat side of things where it's played out in a way of like XCOM style cover based tactical RPG. And yeah, it was really fun. I think they hit the nail basically perfectly on the head for terms of pacing, because these types of games, I think I've said it before, can really drag sometimes. Even if you enjoy the genre, stuff like the original King Arthur game was like 40 hours, 40 hours, and that's just way too long for something like this. This, I think it crossed over the double digit mark, so you're talking about probably 11 ish hours, maybe a little bit longer if you do the DLC. But the actual vanilla campaign experience is really well paced. It's not really difficult either. I didn't find that, at least. I felt like it was fairly well balanced. Things are fairly simple. You know, you have different characters introduced throughout the stages, and they have these little personality quirks and stuff like that, and you're just basically trying to get revenge on a corporation. It's just the classic, cyberpunk esque storytelling thing of dystopian future, fuck the corporation kind of thing, because you have your family members were impacted by it. I believe they were killed, and you're there to get revenge on the person who runs the show. But yeah, it was really fun, really high quality. Didn't have any bugs at all, no crashes, no nothing of that nature. Has a cool like how would you describe it? Like a personality system. You'd meet like your fans and stuff like that, and then you were able to be like cocky, smart, or like caring. I can't remember what the official like breakdowns were, but whatever your personality was, it tied it to like sponsorships that are going to be sponsoring you, kind of like in the Hunger Games when they drop the packages and stuff like that. And that was like an interesting spin. I'd like to see them take another stab at this and get a little bit more funky, because it was a really fun game. So long as they don't decide to sequelize it and then like double the length. I don't think that would do the game justice. But it's not really a setting that you see all that often with um, the TV show aspect kind of thing. Because it just reminded me heavily of, what was it, Death Race, I think was the name of the movie. Kind of just like that. These kind of like really dark, twisted, alternate entertainment stories. Yeah, it was just really fun. So that is Showgunners. Don't really have much else to say because I feel like I had to like second guess myself because I forgot that I put it in the Hidden Gems video, and I was like, I thought I talked about this game already, and it was obviously in the um, Hidden Gems video. I didn't know if it snuck in towards the end of last month, but it didn't. I think I would probably say it's an A tier, especially for its genre. Definitely not the best of the best, but yeah, it does a better job of pacing itself than King Arthur did, and many other games that explore the genre. Really, really fun. Really, really recommend it if it sounds appealing, or if you like XCOM and stuff like that. I think it's a lower budget title as well. I don't think it cost all that much. I can't remember the price exactly. Let me go look. Actually, I can have a look. So give me one sec. So yeah, it's a cheaper title. It's for, at least in the UK, it's 29.24 for the base version, which, yeah, that feels about right. I don't think you'd be getting many people in the door if this was like a full 60 or £70 game. So they've priced that accordingly. And yeah, A-tier game. What did I do next? The old FM. So this is FM 26. This is the console version though. If it looks a little bit different, if you've played on PC and you're like, that doesn't look like FM26. Oh boy. So very mixed feelings about this because it released in a downright woeful state, especially the console version. You couldn't even play the game at launch. I remember booting it up, and they've gone for overhauling the engine. They've done like major changes this year, and it just, so many things were broken. But it was even worse because that's talking from the side of the PC version. The console version was unplayable because even in the screen where you're making your own manager's like avatar, you couldn't select menu items. You couldn't select your height and stuff like that. It just wasn't responsive. So a really, really poor showing for their quote unquote next generation. And this is kind of the thing that I think a lot of people forget, and why a lot of these sports games and many other games that do annualized releases is why you don't see them do massive, massive overhauls, because it's just not achievable in a year rotation. Um, when you try and change too much at once, you end up breaking a lot of stuff, and that's exactly what happened here. Thankfully, as of April 2026, it's playable. It's fine. This still isn't. This isn't where I want it to be the finished product. This is very much, in my mind, how I'm envisioning it. This is the bare minimum foundation for the game, because there's tons of modes missing that were present in the last entry, which was 2024. They skipped 2025, cancelling it, if you kept up with that. But there's so many things missing. International management isn't in there. I believe there's a bunch of like multiplayer modes that aren't in there. I don't even know if multiplayer even exists at all. It may do. I can't remember, but I know that they gutted a bunch of the other mode, like draft mode, I think, isn't in the game. So yeah, there's just a load of stuff that they gotta try and get right moving forward. Now that you've overhauled the engine to make it a little bit more modern. You know, this is the thing, is that they were bigging it up and like, yeah, it looks good, but there were a lot of people that kind of probably set the expectation way, way too high for that, and then we're obviously disappointed that it didn't look as good looking. But Football Manager isn't there for the visuals. Like playing the game in 3D and stuff like that, yeah, that's great. They do a good enough job with the game engine and stuff like that. But it's more so the management sense of stuff. And they also changed a lot of that with this year's game. And again, it's hit or miss, because what happens is that you become a creature of habit when you're playing an annualized release. So any minor changes bug people. And then they've basically uprooted almost everything. So you're having to essentially, instead of being able to bring forward previous game knowledge and stuff like that, and just being able to pick up where you left off, and it's just a new lick of paint, there was a lot of people who had to basically relearn how to play Football Manager, and that also just annoys people, because this is a game of comfort food for a lot of people, myself included. I don't mind learning systems, so it didn't bother me as much. However, the menu interface is just terrible, in my opinion. They need to work out smoothing that aspect out, because there's so many things that are in a drop down menu for a drop down menu for a drop down menu to then get the information, whereas in the previous UI it was like 2 clicks. It's just messy. Hopefully they can go and fix these issues, get this all sorted, and come out swinging with 2027's release. I think they learn a big, big lesson, which is, you know, make sure that you're more tempered, make sure that you set expectations correct, and communication, man. Communication for this game was so poor. You built up such good goodwill and trust with the consumer, and then they kind of have very heavily torched that with a lot of people, because a lot of people are pissed with how it was handled. But other than that, you know, it's Football Manager. It's more of the same. This is just, unfortunately, the way you should view it. It's just a beta, basically. It's not the finished product. If they release next year's entry, and there has been very little improvement, they will be under huge amounts of scrutiny, because you've gone out of your way to uproot everything and heavily shake the bowl that people were relatively happy with. They just wanted minor changes, and then you've gone and overpromised and underdelivered. If they don't land on next year's release, which should be in about 6-7 months' time, if it's following the release cadence for the other games. So they haven't got along. Like, you got to think, if that's 6-7 months' time, you got to start building up your marketing for the game. So it's got to be announced soon, in the next few months, which feels wild, because it feels like we've only just began playing the game, really. But yeah, I see where they were going. I see where they're going. It's just whether or not they can execute it at the end of the day, and we won't know that until the next game comes out. But yeah, that is Football Manager 2026 console edition. There we go, back here. That is it. I am going to say, I'm going to be very harsh, because yes, while it's playable now, that's all well and good. You cancelled the previous game, the year. You released this game in a very broken state on both platforms. It would be different if it was like, okay, you sat and like worked your arse off on the PC platform because it's your biggest player base, and you want to prioritize that, and then semi sacrifice the console side of things. They did neither. They just bit off way more than they can chew. And I don't think, I was going to say make or break for them this year. I don't think that's the case. They don't have a competitor to push them. So it doesn't actually matter. They could release the next year's game and not really be punished. Because if you're a fan of this, where else are you going to go? You know, FIFA doesn't scratch the itch for people for the Football Manager, and there's no other competitor. So, hopefully you just fix your shit. Sports Interactive. Hopefully that just next entry is what you really wished you had delivered with 2025 and 2026. So yeah, we'll see later on this year, assuming it's coming out. Right, moving on to the next one. And that is going to be Adam RPG. We'll start a little bit deeper. Because I was on this character creator screen for a very long time. So, Adam RPG is an absolute love letter to classic Fallout and Wasteland. And this is a game that I remember stumbling upon. I can't remember what year it came out, because it's had a sequel since as well. Would have been a few years back, and I remember scrolling through the Xbox store one day and seeing the name pop up and was like, that's interesting. And then you're looking through the things and you're like, ooh, this looks really, really cool. And ended up taking the stab at it and playing at the time of release. Probably would have put in about 12 hours. Didn't end up finishing it, ended up getting distracted and moving on to something else, but I really did enjoy my time with it. And have been meaning to go back. I've finally gone back and finished it. And it is a really, really fun game. It kind of suffers from a lot of things that happen in CRPGs, where the front of the game is very, very strong in terms of both polish and balance and just general, fun factor. The strengths of this game is that it balances that feeling of Wasteland really well. The only minor gripe I have with it is that with this being a CRPG and relatively challenging, let's get some gameplay on so that you can see the menus and stuff. With this being a CRPG and relatively challenging, it was very, very strange to me that you have obviously companions in the game, but you can't use them. So you can outfit them, you level them up, but you don't choose what they do. And that really did lead to many instances of, because it's permadeath as well, when they die, they die. It led to many instances of having to rely on reloading previous saves, which never feels good in an RPG. I don't like doing it, but I don't think that you're getting to the end of this game without companions. The combat is so skewed to you having companions, because when you get into them later areas, you're outnumbered in the double digits to what you're bringing. I don't think it would have been possible to do what you needed to do to get to the end of the game with just you and maybe one other. The strength of this game is it has a really good sense of humor. It's got a lot of little pop culture references and stuff like that. Something that made me laugh is they've just gone, it feels like they've just gone on to a Google search and just ripped a bunch of famous people. There's H.P. Lovecraft in this game. He's not himself H.P. Lovecraft. It's a reference to him, but it is his picture, and they've just I think they put a mustache on him or something. That was kind of funny. It's got a really strong sense of humor as well in the way that it writes the dialogue in the game and stuff like that, and how you end up tackling some of the quests. It's very... how would you describe this? When you're somebody who... What it reminds me of is like an adventure game where if you're playing through an adventure game, you find that a lot of the solutions are fucking crazy when you think about it, like how you're jumping to logical conclusions to get the right items and combining them together to progress in your stuff. That is the same with this. There's certain instances where I was sat there scratching my head and being like, I don't understand. Like, it feels like it's almost like an impossible odds kind of thing. And what I want to shout out is that a lot of people also felt this way and then wrote up on Steam forums. And what was amazing is that the developer themselves came in and was like doing back and forth banter with people. So if you don't want to hear this next bit, skip ahead. It's probably going to take me about a minute of explaining it, so skip ahead a minute. But very early into the game, you end up arriving at a bunker, which is part of the plot, and there are a bunch of bandits outside. And you can tell that, like, they're not nice people, they're not, savory people. But they have the ability to open the bunker for you, and they do that under the condition that you go in and clear it out for them. So you're like, okay, cool. And you go in there, you end up clearing it out. It's a really long dungeon, and then you end up doing what you need to do in there, and then you go to leave. And they ambush you as you leave, and they are obviously so more equipped than you are at that point. Like, you are just a complete fucking dunce of a human being. You have barely any tools at your disposal, and these are like fully clad bandits with automatic weapons, shotguns, and stuff like that. And you're dying in 2 hits. You don't even get to do your turn half the time unless they miss on their attack rolls. And I was like, what the fuck is going? Like, this is insane. Like, what am I meant to do? I remember going and looking up to be like, am I like fundamentally missing something that I should have done in the bunker? And what it turns out is that the developer hopped into one of the forums and was like, well, if you munched on one of the mushrooms in there, then your breath would smell horrible and you would be emitting like radiation and stuff like that. And upon leaving the bunker, they would realize that and smell your breath and then run away because they think that you're mutated. And I just smiled at that point. I was just like, sure thing, bud. Like, yeah, that's the logical jump, I'm sure. And you have that happen many times in the game. It's not just that one-off. And when that was shown, it was just like, okay, that's kind of funny. It's a game that looks so damn simplistic on the surface, with it being so heavily rooted in being an indie game that I wouldn't have suspected that they would have pulled something like that, which was kind of funny. The combat's kind of basic, if I'm being honest, especially when you're like comparing it to other games in the genre that have taken a stab at it. It definitely feels more in line with like Wasteland 2 than Wasteland 3, but it's fine. It plays fairly well on console as well. They've implemented and opted for the radial menu thing where you hold down a button and then it brings up extra stuff to make it much more playable on a controller. So that's nice. The crafting system, though, is a pain in the ass to use on the controller when you're trying to scroll through. If you can see where it says experiment custom made crossbow, trying to scroll through that menu was not very good. And I've noticed that a lot with CRPGs that come to console, because Rogue Trader was another one where when you're leveling up your character, because of the design of the menu of that, it really didn't translate very well to controller and console. So hopefully they can figure that stuff out with their next game. But yeah, really, really fun game. It's on paper not very long. However, if you don't want to hear this, this is going to be me. I'm not going to be talking about narrative spoilers for the end game, but I'm going to be talking about some aspects of the end game. So if you don't want to hear that, and then you want to just skip to the ranking, then just tab forward a few times. But you end up getting to the final area of the game, as it were, and it's a massive dungeon. And the difficulty spike just shot it. Like, before you're going into there and you're in the previous area, like, at that point you're like 1 or 2 shotting enemies consistently. You have enough stuff at your disposal. You feel like, oh yes, this is the end game. Like, I feel like I'm peaking at the end of my power, as it were. And then you get into that final dungeon thing, and the beginning enemies allow you to do that, and then you get about halfway through that dungeon, and just things begin to fucking tear you apart. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And I ended up having to, because there's no fast travel out of the dungeon. Like, you have to do everything on foot in that regard. So I ended up getting to basically at the final push, and I could not make any progress forward. So I ended up having to walk all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon, leave that area, and then spend a few hours of just grinding mobs, because when you're walking around the open world, it generates random encounters constantly. And yeah, just had to sit there and grind levels, and like, that's not good. Like, I'll happily admit that that's not a good thing to have to experience. I enjoyed the game so much that I didn't mind spending more time with it. Didn't mind doing more combat. It's fun. But that's not good balance. Hopefully they've addressed this in the sequel, True to Grad is what it's called. I haven't played enough of it to know. But yeah, hopefully they've sorted that out and have addressed it, because that did, when you're heading towards the pivotal climax moment of any video game, the last thing you want to do is run into a roadblock that then artificially extends like 5 hours more onto it, because that's what it was. Because it's not just grinding for 5 hours that you got to walk around, then you got to do the combat, and then you'll leave the area, and then you're gonna go and have to, because there's eating and survival-esque elements, very light survival elements, but you need to eat, you need to, I think, sleep as well. Like, there's all these different extra things that just artificially lengthen the playthrough. And when you get hit with like a difficulty spike like that, that makes you have to basically go back, it just, yeah, wasn't great. Apologies for that. Still very, very tired. Haven't been sleeping very much. So yeah, Adam RPG. It's fun but flawed. If you like Wasteland 2, definitely give it a go. If you enjoy the original Fallouts, like, there's enough here that you'll end up enjoying the take that they have on it. But yeah, I'm hoping, because I've not played enough of True to Grad, I'm hoping that you can select your companions in the sequel. And yeah, hopefully there's been enough improvements there. They've announced a true numbered sequel, because True to Grad wasn't called Adam RPG 2, it's just called True to Grad. There has been an announcement of Adam RPG 2, and that looks like they are throwing a lot more budget at it. It's still going to be an indie game, of course, but they seem to be pushing what they themselves can do. But yeah, really, really fun game. So let's go ahead and rank it. Adam RPG. If I didn't hit that hurdle, I would have actually had it in the A tier. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think, although it has shortcomings and heavy flaws, I think it does. It has enough charm and heart, personality, and stuff like that, and it does things well enough to have it established as, if you like, as I've said, Wasteland 2 or the original Fallout's, like, this is a must play, in my opinion. Really, really fun. Right, time to end it off with the final game. Ponkel's next, I think they're called Ponkel. Ponkel's next stab at gaming crack, as it were. And wow. I remember them announcing it and seeing that it was going to be a card game and stuff like that, and like, I sighed a little bit. Not for me. I want that to be very, very clear. I love card games. I was just worried that you've become established as making, one type of product. Branching out of that is always going to run the risk of, if you fail, that can damage your reputation. And then on top of that, not a lot of people like card games. Like, it's fairly big on PC and stuff like that. They don't really gel well with console players, I've noticed. So that's always a big risk. This is so damn addictive. Like, they just have the juice. I don't know what they put in the water over there at the dev team, but it is damn addictive. So what it is it's set in the Vampire Survivors universe, so you're pulling all the characters that you've sat there and grinded with for hundreds of hours, and obviously the items that you've become very familiar with. It's pulling over the evolution system that they have. So, like, it feels very, very, very much like Vampire Survivors. The only difference is, instead of it being from a top-down perspective, you're in a first-person dungeon crawler, and you are doing it with a deck instead of the item limit in the top left. And in the beginning, it's definitely slow. It's definitely, it takes a while to get going, but as you start clearing more and more maps, you're obviously getting more relics, and then like more gameplay systems introduced and stuff like that. And then you start learning what items just work and what items don't, what characters work and what characters don't. And yeah, everything just falls into place, and you just end up absolutely smashing this game in half. Like, what immediately popped to my mind is when, spoilers for is it The Dark Knight Rises? One of the Batman films, the one with Bane, and he ends up snapping him in half. That is what it feels like, with the difficulty of this game. Like, you win runs semi-consistently in the beginning, and then you just absolutely brutalize this game. And it feels like it reaches a point of where it becomes basically impossible to lose, even if you're not even playing things optimally at that point, because you have so much statistical growth from the stuff that you're bringing into the missions, because you passively level them up with the gold currency that you get while doing these dungeon delvings. And yeah, it's a thing where I 100%ed the game. I literally did it this morning, so that's very much fresh in my mind. I think the game is very, 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 very good if you're not going for the 100%. The 100% does mildly sour it, because it has just a weird pacing issue towards the final few achievements, because you have the achievements prior to that are like finding all the evolutions and beating maps with certain characters. So they're kind of like one and done things, and then there's a few cumulative achievements where you're having to hit like high numbers, to the point where I think one of them was like I believe it was play the purple cards 3,000 times. That's just so, like, here, they're not the light tome, so a lot of them are mana cards. You just have to play 3,000 of them cards, and yeah, beat the entire game and hadn't even broken 1,000 for that. So I had to sit there and manually grind that out, and yeah, that's not great. But like at the end of the day, that's gonna kind of always almost be the case when you're doing 100%. So I'm not gonna hold it against the game in that regard. It could have had its 100% list be a little bit better, but the actual game itself is just outstanding. I don't know how they have managed to make this just as addictive, because when you're talking, like, when people have talked about Vampire Survivors and stuff like that and explained it to people, until you've played it, you don't understand like how addictive it is. Like, if you played like one run and then put it down, it's not really gonna sink its teeth in you. When you've stuck there and played several runs, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I do get it. And it's the same with this. And it's just shocking that they've been able to replicate that feeling with a completely different genre. I'm just very, very impressed with the ability of being creative. Really cool as well to see the art style from this perspective as well. I don't think like many people have given like a lot of love to it in that regard. It's really cool to see like the enemies that you were fighting from so far away in Vampire Survivors up close and personal. Because that was a really, it's probably because I'm relatively biased, but I do like HD 2D art. I like these types of like pixel art things with like Octopath and stuff like that. So like this does sit similar in that vein. So I'm probably going to be a little bit biased in my like for that. But like really, really pretty game in my opinion. And it just, yeah, scratches the itch of digital crack, as people love to call it. So yeah, Vampire Crawlers. It is on. I also want to shout out, is on Game Pass. So you can go and play it free there, and it's not expensive at all. It's under £10, I believe, for the copy. I believe it's digital only, so that is a negative for some. But that is Vampire Crawlers. I've very much enjoyed it. Did I enjoy it for it to be an S tier though? Yes. It scratches all of them itches that I like of their game design, and made it compelling enough for me to really stick by it, because first person dungeon crawlers, I like them as settings, but they're definitely not my favorite way of playing a game. So for me to be playing this for basically 3 or 4 days straight as like one of my main games, that's just telling, isn't it? So there we have it. S tier for Vampire Crawlers, A tier for Showgunners, B tier for Adam RPG, and C tier for Football Manager 26. It's kind of weird. I think I've been doing this a lot of spreading it out, but I do. I don't know. It's just how I look at games. I don't really have like a I love everything about this or I hate everything. Like, there's always middle ground, and I think that's very important. Like, for instance, with Adam RPG, like, it's a great game, but it definitely has its flaws, and I love it. But you know, of the two TRPGs, you know, Showgunners has a lot more polish to it and stuff like that, and budget and just, yeah, overall full package quality. I think it edges it. But yeah, there we go. That is the month of April. Completely forgot it was April. Couldn't think of it. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you've been playing down below. If you somehow stumbled upon here before Brandon, make sure to check out the description down below where his channel will be linked. He does amazing solo stuff, and obviously you'll know him if you've somehow only interacted with my side of the channel. You know him from the podcast, which we'll be doing actually later today, funnily enough, episode 2. So yeah, make sure to go over there, give his stuff a watch, and make sure to send him some love. And if you want to join a Discord with like-minded gamers such as yourself, pop a comment down below and I'll hit you back with the link. We have a May event rolling out on the 1st of May, which is going to be sci-fi oriented. A lot of people seem to be very excited about that. I've actually gone and built my list, so I'll actually give you a little peek behind the corner. Behind the, what the hell's the phrasing for that? Peek behind the curtain. Couldn't think of it while I'm trying to scroll. What did I? Yeah, everybody's been posting the stuff. So whenever I do these events, I do always try to be as lenient as possible, because if you try to be very, very strict, it will then end up in a scenario of somebody would have wanted to join and participate, but doesn't fit the criteria that you've put out. So trying to make sure it's as stretched and wide as possible. I, like, as a perfect example, like I had said that like steampunk was completely fine as sci-fi and stuff like that. Some people argue it's not, but I wanted to make sure that people had as many options as possible. But for me, the 6 games that I've chosen doesn't mean I'm going to be beating them. These are just the 6 that are going to be at my disposal for the event. Is going to be Dishonored 2, Warhammer 40,000, Chaos Gate, I think Demon Hunters is what it's called, Lost Planet 1, Ghost Runner, Chorus, and then I've locked in Code Vein 2. I want to try and get back to that because I was enjoying it in, I can't remember if it was January or February whenever it released. They've had quite a few updates since then, so I do want to get back to it, play more of it, and hopefully finish it up. But there we go. That is the month of April wrapped up. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.